It started subtly, as these things often do. A flicker of movement in the corner of my eye as I was drifting off to sleep. I'd dismiss it as my tired brain playing tricks on me. A shadow cast by the moon, a branch swaying outside my window. There was always a rational explanation, or so I told myself. But the feeling of being watched, that cold, prickling sensation on the back of my neck, was harder to explain away. It was a Tuesday night when I first saw her clearly. I woke up suddenly with that jarring feeling you get when you know something is wrong. My heart was pounding against my ribs, a frantic drum in the dead silence of my room. My eyes darted around, trying to pierce the oppressive darkness. And that's when I saw her. A figure standing at the foot of my bed. She was tall and slender, a dark silhouette against the faint glow of the street lamp filtering through my curtains. I couldn't make out any features, just her shape, a long flowing dress, or maybe it was a nightgown pulled around her feet. Her hair was long and seemed to float around her head, a dark halo. I was frozen, every muscle in my body locked in terror. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even breathe. All I could do was stare, my eyes wide with a fear so profound it felt like it was physically crushing me. Who was she? What did she want? My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible reality before me. A burglar? No, the doors were locked. A sleep paralysis demon. I'd read about those, but this felt different. This felt real. She just stood there, perfectly still, a silent sentinel in the gloom. The silence was the worst part. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket, amplifying the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. It felt like an eternity, but it must have only been a minute or two before I blinked, and she was gone. Vanished out as if she'd never been there at all. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat up in bed, the duvet pulled up to my chin, my eyes scanning every shadow, every corner of the room. When the first rays of dawn finally broke, I felt a wave of relief so intense it left me weak. I tried to convince myself it was a nightmare, a vivid, terrifying nightmare. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The next night, I was a wreck. I left every light in the apartment on. I even put a chair against my bedroom door, a flimsy, pathetic defense that made me feel even more foolish. I tried to stay awake, reading a book, the words blurring in front of my eyes. But exhaustion is a relentless foe. Sometime after 3 in the morning, my eyelids grew heavy and I drifted off. And then I woke up. The room was dark. The lights were off. The chair was back in its place by my desk. My blood ran cold. I knew without even looking that she was there. I forced myself to lift my head. There she was, at the foot of my bed. This time, she seemed closer. I could see a little more detail in the dim light. Her dress was white, old-fashioned, with lace at the collar. Her face was still a blur of shadow, but I could feel her gaze on me, a heavy, sorrowful weight. I found my voice this time, a choked whisper. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The words hung in the air, unanswered. She didn't move. She didn't make a sound. She just stood there watching. The fear was different this time. It was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but it was mixed with a strange sense of pity. There was an aura of profound sadness about her, an almost tangible grief that filled the room. Night after night, the same ritual played out. I would wake up, and she would be there. I stopped fighting it. I stopped leaving the lights on. I accepted her presence as a bizarre, terrifying part of my new reality. I started talking to her, my voice growing a little stronger each night. I'd tell her about my day, about my worries, about the strange dreams I was having. She never responded, but in a weird way it felt like she was listening. I became obsessed with finding out who she was. My apartment building was old, built in the early 1900s. I spent my days at the local library digging through archives, looking for old newspapers and public records. I searched for any mention of a tragedy, an accident, a death connected to my address. For weeks, I found nothing. I was starting to lose hope, starting to question my own sanity. Was I just hallucinating? Was the stress of my life manifesting in this spectral visitor? Then I found it. A small article, buried deep in a microfiche file of a newspaper from 1928. The headline read, "Young Bride Lost to Influenza." The article described a woman named Laura Vance who had lived in my very apartment. She had moved in with her new husband, only to fall victim to the brutal flu pandemic that was sweeping the nation. She died in her bed, in what was now my bedroom, just a few weeks after her wedding. The article included a photograph. My hands trembled as I looked at the faded black and white image. It was her. The same long, dark hair. The same slender frame. Her wedding dress looked just like the white gown I saw her in every night. But it was her face that stole my breath. Her eyes, they were filled with a deep, heart-wrenching sadness. The same sadness I felt radiating from her in my room. That night, when I woke up and saw her standing at the foot of my bed, I wasn't afraid. I sat up and looked at her, really looked at her. "Alara," I said softly. "Your name is Alara, isn't it?" For the first time, there was a reaction. Her form flickered like a candle flame in a breeze. She took a step closer and then another. She was now standing right beside my bed. For the first time, I could see her face clearly. It was just as it was in the photograph, pale and beautiful, her eyes shimmering with tears. She looked so lost, so confused. "You died here," I continued, my voice gentle. "A long time ago. Your husband, he must have been heartbroken." She raised a translucent hand, reaching towards me, but not touching. Her expression was one of infinite longing. I realized she wasn't there to haunt me, not in a malicious way. She was trapped. a lost soul, replaying the last moments of her life, unable to move on. Maybe she was waiting for her husband to come back. Maybe she didn't even know she was dead. "He's not here, Alara," I said, my own eyes filling with tears. "He's gone. It's time for you to go too. You don't have to be sad anymore. You can be at peace." I don't know why I said those things. They just came out. It felt like the right thing to do. I was trying to comfort a ghost. She looked at me, her sorrowful eyes searching mine. Then a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. It was a smile of gratitude, of release. Her form began to grow brighter, glowing with a soft, warm light that filled the entire room. The oppressive cold that always accompanied her was replaced by a feeling of warmth and peace. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding, and then, as quickly as it came, it faded, leaving me alone in the quiet darkness of my room. She was gone. I knew it instantly. The air was different. The silence was no longer heavy and threatening, but calm and peaceful. I waited, but she didn't return. Not that night, not the next, not ever again. Sometimes I still think about her, Alara Vance, the sad bride who stood at the foot of my bed. I no longer feel fear when I remember her, only a deep sense of compassion. I don't know what happens when we die, but I hope she found her peace. I hope she was finally reunited with the husband she lost so tragically. As for me, I sleep soundly now, but I never forget to say a quiet good night to the woman who taught me that some ghosts aren't looking to scare us, they're just looking for a little help to find their way home. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.